But what you've got to be careful of in an economy is the aggregation of market power that turns into political power, inevitably. And we've seen that again and again. And that's what antitrust laws were created for in 1890, the Sherman Act. And yet antitrust scrutiny has waned over time.
I want to go to Bernie Sanders. Your book is called Saving Capitalism for the Many, for the Few. He is a socialist. He is a Democratic presidential candidate. In July, he was interviewed in an event hosted by the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce at the Newseum in Washington, D.C., and was asked about his position on financial institutions and his support for reinstating the Glass-Steagall Act, which separated commercial from investment banking and was repealed in 1999. This is a part of what he said.
We have 6 of the largest financial institutions in this country who have assets equivalent, assets of about $10 trillion, which is equivalent to about 60% of the GDP of the United States. So point number one, you have a handful of huge financial institutions that have enormous economic clout. They issue a significant amount of the mortgages in this country and the credit cards in this country. So the first issue is, for a vibrant economy, do we think it is a good idea for a handful of financial institutions to have that much economic clout? What Wall Street has done is create a business model which says we really don't care about small and medium-sized businesses. What we care is about being an island unto ourselves, coming up with the most esoteric financial tools imaginable that nobody in the world knows, but enables Wall Street to make huge, huge amounts of money in highly dangerous and speculative activities. That led us to the Wall Street crash of 2008, which created the worst economic downturn since the Great Recession. I personally believe that the business model of Wall Street is fraud. When I was in the House, I was a member of the House Financial Services Committee that dealt with deregulation. And we had the Clinton people, and we had the Republicans coming before us. And you remember what they said? They said, it's a great idea if we merge investment banks with commercial banks, with large insurance companies. It'll be great for us internationally. I never believed it for one second, fought against it. So to my mind, what we have to do is, A, reestablish Glass-Steagall, maintain those separate entities. But second of all, more importantly, we have got to break them up.
That's Bernie Sanders. Actually, Glass-Steagall was repealed under the Clinton administration in 1999. Robert Reich.
Bernie Sanders is right. We've got to reestablish Glass-Steagall.
And explain why it's so important.
Well, because after the crash of 1929, the United States set out to prevent that kind of crazy risk-taking by the banking sector that led to the crash of 1929. We're not talking about 2008. We're talking about 1929. One thing we did was separate commercial banking from investment banking so that people's deposits, the ordinary savings of ordinary people, would not be used for gambling operations by the investment banks. We ought to maintain that. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we got into trouble again. We also need to bust up the biggest banks. Bernie Sanders actually understated the reality. I mean, the 5 biggest banks that used to have 10% of total banking assets back in 1990 now have 44% of total banking assets in this country. I mean, they are far too big to fail. I mean, they are so large that they are, just because of their political clout and their scale, they are gaining more and more market share of the entire banking industry. That's dangerous. It's dangerous for the economy. It's dangerous for our political culture because those banks have a great deal of political power.